Good evening, Shalom from Israel. Good evening, and we're having a little dance with Be Live. So we won't be able to get Rose up for a few minutes, but Shulamit Lando is here. My name is Dr. Tovah Goldfein. I'm all sorts of stuff, but it's not important right now. I want to introduce you to my guest. I'm so thrilled to welcome Shulamit Lando to tell her story and to educate you, and we welcome you to ask questions. You can comment, and 10-15 minutes after Shulamit's finished, we will be thrilled to dialogue with you. Welcome. Good evening, Shulamit.
Hi, Tovah. Nice to see everybody.
Everybody can see you. Tell us, how one heals from not only an autoimmune disease where the body more or less attacks itself, but where the doctor inside says, wait a minute, it's not an attack, like something's happening. And I just want to hear your words because it's my mind is blown over and over again.
When your body all of a sudden says, I can't go on. At least that's what happened to me before even a doctor said you have this or that. Before I was diagnosed, long before I was diagnosed, the body started doing funny things, like I would get pins and needles, or I would get part of my body that would be completely numb. That's how it started originally. I would get these episodes in which I couldn't walk right.
How old were you?
I was 27 when the first attack I had. I was actually in a vacation in New York. One of those times that you will not say, I'm not stressed, I'm on a vacation. I'm in a really good relationship. Everything's fine. So what's this? In the middle of New York, all of a sudden, I got up in the middle of the night, and like when I put my head up to go to the bathroom, I had this like a shock, like an electric shock that went from my neck down all my way to the feet, like a zoom, like an electric shock all the way down to my feet and up. It's very scary. I got up to the bathroom, came back, nothing happened. The next morning, I'm drying myself with a towel after the shower, and I feel funny. I mean, like my skin is not right. I can't really express it any better. In a matter of 4 or 5 days, my whole body was completely numb from here down, including my neck. From here down, completely numb, pins and needles, but also like when you have anesthesia in your teeth and then it feels like fat.
Right.
My whole body was like fat, and it felt like it was tight, very, very, very tight to my back, to my spine, which was like a fat pole, and my whole body was tight, and I could walk very weird, really, really strange. So I was taken to the hospital. I was turned inside out. They did a spinal tap.
Yes. Yeah.
Horrible thing. And they were looking actually for a brain tumor. The doctor said to me the day before. My mother took me to the doctor, and the guy said this was a Jewish neurologist, one of the top in Mexico City. And he said, listen, you probably have. He made this little sketch on a piece of paper of a ball, like a circle and a line. This is your spine, and this is probably a brain tumor in your head that is pressing here. And maybe tomorrow I can find that brain tumor and take it out, and maybe I can save you from paralysis for the rest of your life. This is what he said to me. 27-year-old. I didn't know what he was saying. So he takes me to this thing. They do the tap. They turn me upside down. They put you on a bed. They strap you to it, and they move you, so that your head is down. And
wow.
They want to see the liquid that they
You must have been terrified. Wow.
Terrifying, horrible thing, up and down and up and down. And he's saying, be careful, because if the liquid that we're injecting goes up to your brain, you're going to have horrible migraines. Well, thank you for scaring me more, Anyway, after they did this to me, up and down, they said, good news, you don't have a tumor, but we don't know what you have. And then they did another test, horrible test they did a test that was, and they would put a needle inside every muscle in my body.
It's called an electro muscle. Anyway, NBAYA.
Horrible thing, because it was then,
Yeah.
I thought when they explained it to me, I said, well, I've had acupuncture, it can't be
right, so bad.
It was a horrible thing. The needle was like a toothpick thick, and
Wow.
every muscle of my hand. I remember my hand, and this was connected to a computer that was supposed to find what part of my brain was not working right. They didn't find anything. Horrible thing. In short, they didn't find anything, and this thing on its own went in about 2 months, disappeared. And I thought, okay, we don't know what it was. I just left it at that. 5 years went by in which I decided I'm not going to a doctor. In which those 5 years, I didn't really have anything, but by the end of those 5 years, I started having like half of my body would get numb and paralyzed, and then the other half of the body, and one eye wouldn't see and one ear wouldn't hear, just really, really weird symptoms. And after 5 years, I had a really horrible attack again, which really paralyzed my speech. For example, I couldn't talk. And I finally was diagnosed by somebody else. He said, this is MS. I know, I've seen it. Like this was 82 when it started. There was no MRI. There was nothing. They didn't know anything anyway, but they didn't have anything to diagnose like they do have now. They had to wait for a few episodes to compare. And finally, this guy said, this is my specialty. You have MS. This is progressive, degenerative, and incurable. Go home, order your things, order a wheelchair. Now, I have nothing against wheelchairs. I've used them. But go home, organize yourself, and get a wheelchair, I had just come back from New York with books of piano. I used to play the piano. And I had all these music books with all my favorite artists. I was going to play Elton John, and I was going to play Janis Ian. What? My hands were like this. And my feet also were like this. Anyway, life was a stop there. I wasn't going to be able to keep on living my life as I was living it, that's for sure. So what was your question?
So the question, I'm sure that people will have questions, but I would like to know, basically, you decided to take the bull by the horns, and I wouldn't say defy medicine, though you found like you were angry, but it was like, what part of you was like, I can do this. I can make my body heal.
Well, it wasn't so immediate and so like that. Listen, they said, we don't know what causes this. We don't know what makes it better. We don't have a lot of options. They gave me steroids. And I do remember one morning that I saw my face in the mirror in the morning. My face became really, really, really round and full of like black hair from the steroids. I saw my face in the mirror, and I remember my father, who died a little before that with cancer. And somehow I had this parallel. I thought of him and I said, they don't know anything. They're telling me that they don't know what causes it, what takes it away, what happens with it. They don't know anything. Why would I be taking the medication that they give me when they're telling me that they don't have anything to help me? So I left the steroids and I said, they don't know, I'm going to find something else. I left Mexico City. I went to live in a town that is like 45 minutes away, south of Mexico City. It's called Cuernavaca, very popular, beautiful place. And Mexico has a lot of, let's call it alternative medicine. It's not necessarily that. There's a lot of, like from the people's, traditional medicine. And I said, I'm going to just find something else. They don't have anything. I'm not going to even go back to them. I'm not going to take anything. I'm just going to find my way. And if this thing kills me, it's going to kill me anyway. So I'm just going to try something else. And I started trying, Tovah, everything in the book. I did the weirdest treatments that out there. I did them. Injections, serums intravenous, acupuncture intravaginal. Really weird. I did the weirdest things, but I found, I would follow my intuition. Somebody would come and say, I know the healer back here that does, I don't know what, he heal whatever. People, if my intuition would say, try it, I would go try it. If my intuition would say no, I wouldn't. Same with food. I would eat what my intuition said, it goes this way, not that way. Like I really developed a very keen channel with my intuition. My gut.
How did you talk about that? Because some of the work that Rose and I do, it's about people knowing themselves. And when they know themselves and they're in touch with their feelings and they're in touch with their beliefs, when they're in touch with their behavior, and they're not a stranger, they can understand and deal with the fear. I mean, you were living in fear, but you were understanding your fear. It was like your fear was here and you were doing what you needed to do. And your fear was not running you, though it was there and you were acknowledging it, but it was not running you enough that you couldn't propel forward and let your intuition. So continue.
So listen, you're right. Fear was there always, but it didn't run my life. I would hear, for example, somebody said, there's an institute or something in Switzerland that deals with MS. And the way they do it is that they have these long tables with food, and you are supposed to eat whatever food makes you salivate. And that's the way you know that the body wants it. I said, sounds interesting, but how am I going to get to Switzerland if I can't get up? Okay? So Switzerland is not for me. I sort of had a feeling inside. I had a knowing. That's more like it. Like I had a knowing that said, whatever's going to be for me is going to come right underneath my next foot.
Wow.
My next step, And so I did this thing and that thing and that thing. And it's not like one thing healed me. No, everything together ended up healing me. That's what I feel. But,
okay.
I went into health places like where I would fast for I don't know how long. At the same time, they would give you enemas and they would give you cold baths of cold water and hot water and teas, and I just did everything that I found that made sense to me. Very extreme. My mother would say, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" Because my grandfather was a pharmacist, one of the first pharmacists in Mexico. And so medicine was very important in my house.
Of course.
And I was saying, I'm not taking anything that the doctors say they don't know, so why would I take the medicine? And I didn't. I just didn't. I never took anything for the MS.
Wow. So talk about some of the things you did. What did you do spiritually? What did you do emotionally? How did you keep yourself calm when you would see the black hair on your face, or you would, walk slow, or you would drag your leg? Like I know from my mother, who, may she rest in peace, got MS when she was 33. So I understand the symptoms. Tell us more about what you did and how you were able to love Shulamit, not be angry at the doctors, love yourself, love your body, hair and all, and work through this. And how many years did it take where you felt that you were complete? Well,
first of all, I was invited to a group of body-oriented psychotherapy. It was a group, it was a therapeutic group that was going to be every weekend, the whole weekend for a year, for therapy. We were like 15 people, 18 people in the group. And after that year, if we wanted to continue, we could be certified in that kind of therapy.
Right.
So then we did bioenergetics, and we did deep tissue massage to unblock emotions. And we did postural integration, which was also like a very, very deep massage to create a reaction, to vomit emotions. It was really crazy. It was a lot of yelling and a lot of crying, and there was a lot of breathing and stress positions, and where you shake, and anger. You would get out by beating pillows and tearing paper, and
They were having you express yourself in a way that
express, and it was a lot of gestalt. I mean, it wasn't just crying out,
Right.
crazy. It was integration of all of that, understanding what's going on with me. And of course, after that, somehow I wasn't carrying all of that inside.
Wow.
It was expressed, it was understood. Now, again, it wasn't that therapy which cured me. No. It was just part of the process. It was part of the healing process that lasted a long time. You asked me how long. I'm not a very young person. My whole 30s, from 32 that I was.
You're not a very old person either.
Well, but I've doubled what I was.
But
my 30s,
yeah.
my 30s, I was in and out of episodes all the time. My whole life in my 30s, that decade, was what do I feel, what I don't feel, because all of a sudden I don't feel this and I don't feel, like what I can't function. And how am I going to drive, or how am I going to work, or how am I going to have a relationship? It was freaky, but I became very, very spiritual, very spiritual. I was not religious. I'm Jewish, but I was not religious at all. I became something else. I followed a group that was a very spiritual group. I started believing very different than I was brought up to believe. And more than anything, that spirituality had me understand that I am not this body, that I'm much more than this body. Some people call it soul. I used to call it soul for sure. I am something that is way beyond this thing. Even if I believe in the body, I don't think that it ends in my skin. It ends a little further out, and what I project. I'm a vibrating being that, how do you say mishadir? that projects energy,
right.
And I affect the outer, and the outer affects me.
Right.
And I understood this group was all about body mind. So what I think, it affects me emotionally. What I think and affects me emotionally affects my body, and the other way around too.
Yes.
What happens in the body creates an emotion, affects my thinking. What I tell myself affects what is going on, affects my experience of reality.
Right.
So a lot of body mind, and that's where I after that year of intense therapy, I became a body mind psychotherapist, which is what I do now.
Right. So in your 30s, you had remissions. Okay. So and then you were working and studying, and so it comes to the end of your 30s. When you say cure, that's a strong word.
Well, people who are in the medical body, they would say that you cannot cure, that you manage your symptoms. I don't agree. Yes, you manage your symptoms until they don't come back. And if they don't come back, I'm sorry, but that in my language means healed, if not cured. Yes. And there is such a thing as spontaneous remission that, by the way, has nothing of spontaneous.
Exactly.
You work your ass off. Sorry, my French. You work your ass off, and then you get to a remission. I have never worked so much. I mean, listen, now the new medicine, they're talking about gut-brain connection, the gut and the brain, the microbiome and all of that is so true. You change your body through what you eat. You change your body through what you say.
You change your brain, neuroplasticity, by your environment and your thoughts.
Exactly. So my whole life became that. I really believe that illness, not only for me, but I'm going to talk about me, illness is a present that came to transform me. I am not the same person at all. And now I work, by the way, I volunteer in a center, a holistic center for people with cancer and their families. And everybody with cancer, I have heard say, this has been present. Not a present that I would have chosen. Really, I wish that I wouldn't have had those years of suffering. But it's an opportunity to transform, or to become terribly angry and resented at God and at everybody else. There's also that freedom, you know.
So what you're saying, I want to sum it up for a minute. I mean, you know, in the words of Joe Dispenza, who a lot of our guests read about him, one of his books is How Do You Lose Yourself to Find Yourself? And I think what people have to understand is that, you know, I always talk about them learning a new habit, a new relationship with their pain, a new relationship with themselves, but it has to be the next chapter and the only chapter. It doesn't mean they're self-centered or self-focused. It means that they live differently, they feel differently, they're in touch with their feelings, they're in touch with how you know, Rosie can explain this a little better, but they're in touch with loving themselves, accepting themselves in a way that they've never needed to before, and they have to keep doing this. And people will say, well, you know, the pain comes back because they got away from themselves. So this is a present for yourself. So talk more about how it's your life, and you still have a life. You have a job, you have a husband, you have, you know, it's not like you have to be consumed by it, because it becomes a habit, and it becomes like waking up and brushing your teeth. You wake up, you might meditate, you might journal, you eat healthy. Talk more about that for our listeners.
Well, I'll tell you, I really think that meditation is basic. Now, it doesn't have to be this kind or that kind of meditation. It doesn't have to be this image that people have of a monk, a cross-legged, you know, chanting Om. It doesn't have to be that. Meditation can be many, many approaches to just be silent, learn how to breathe, so that you learn how to turn off, let's call it like that, calming down the part of the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight-flight reaction, and go into parasympathetic system, which is the part that makes you relax and sleep and digest and repair, because you can repair only if you really relax. So you want to meditate so that you can calm down from the freaking out thing that is happening to you because you're scared. So first of all, that, and then eating right, which is the most difficult thing for most. Definitely it was for me. Right now I'm used to it, so I even crave it. But you know, eat organic, eat integral, whole, eat right. There's so much information out there, you know. Eat right.
Not balanced. Eat balanced.
Eat balanced and organic and clean and with colors, and you know, something that makes you salivate. Like really.
And I think the people that Rose and I talk to are so tired. They're so burnt out. And I think they feel that they can't do it. How could they cook I think they believe their thoughts. And I always say, don't believe your thoughts. Thank it for coming in and speaking, but don't believe it. They have the energy. Like, where did you get the energy to do these things? Where did you know, this is what I also like you to speak to, and speak to the audience about, like, you know, we have enormous resources that we think because we have chronic pain, we don't have because we're exhausted, but the exhaustion is a thought. It doesn't mean that, you know,
it's also a physical
sensation. It is a feeling. Yes, it is. It's true. Yes, it is.
MS, believe me, fatigue is fatigue. It's not being exhausted. It's fatigue. It's something else.
Yes.
So I understand what you're saying, and I understand everybody that would say that to me. It is not simple. It's not simple. It's not easy. But you want to keep on living. You're going to anyway keep on living. So do the best you can. And if you really do the best you can today, you will have 1 millimeter more of energy tomorrow. And you then do the best you can. And then you feel good because you did 2 millimeters more.
Exactly. Step by step.
Step by step. Step by step. But also say, good for me that I made that step. You know, the problem is that we get disappointed that we can't do more, you know. And I think that self-appreciation is really important. Also, you said about being selfish. What's the difference between being selfish and self-care?
Right.
It's a fine line, It's really a fine line.
It's a very big difference, yeah.
And if you don't take care of yourself, nobody will. So you have to. Some people can have help, so wonderful if you were able to finance help that cooks for you, for example. That's wonderful. But if you can't, do some sprouts, life in sprouts, do some greens, just buy greens. And I don't know.
I just want to go back to what you said because it's so important. When we criticize ourselves, and Rose can pick this up in a minute. I'll just be talking to her as a co-host, and we'll be working on a project, and I'll say something. She'll be like, "Why are you criticizing yourself?" I'm like, "I'm not even aware of it." When
It's
I'm
a habit.
criticizing myself. So, and when we criticize ourselves, it's the body's. It's almost like the conflict begins. Then all of a sudden, the fight or flight is like, "Oh, I have to protect." Like the body is that sensitive that it's aware that I'm fighting myself, I'm criticizing myself. There's this sort of something changes in my blood pressure, something changes in my chemicals, and the brain goes into fight or flight. A lion is coming, and all I did was I was criticizing myself. This is how sensitive we are, and I think it's very important for people to really get that self-criticism is something we have a habit of doing, and we can undo it just like we learned it. Give us an example of maybe how you might have criticized yourself, and then you were able to be like, wait a minute, I actually look good with black hair on my face. In fact, she looks very good.
Well, that example didn't work. Not in there, but I'm going to put a little bit of makeup, and I'm going to, and I'm going to make myself look better to me. Now, you said criticize yourself, self-judgment. It really is something we learned. And we learned it from our mother and our father who said, no, you don't look nice when you cry. Girls don't look pretty when they cry.
And boys are not allowed to cry at all.
Boys are not allowed to cry. And anything when you're a child, you learn by imitating also how they live. And they live how they saw. So, we're just repeating generations behind us, and then it's cultural also. Like we criticize others and we're all the time gossiping. We do it to ourselves too. And yeah, you're right. If I am going to put myself down, something in me is going to feel threatened and it's going to go into fight or flight because then I'm not good enough. And everybody's going around not making it in life somewhere inside ourselves because we believe we are not enough. Not enough pretty, not enough rich, not enough intelligent, not enough whatever. Not enough. And that is what we are carrying with ourselves. And you say self-criticism, actually, the way we speak to ourselves and the pictures we have in our heads are what's going to determine our life experience completely. Completely. If I tell myself, you're not okay, you shouldn't have done that, it's a huge burden on me. Way worse than somebody else would have said it.
Right.
And I'm just repeating somebody else's
right. And we're not here to blame parents.
No.
What Rose has taught me, in very specific ways, the way that she learned with the ISTDP was that I am capable of loving the father that might have emotionally abused me, the loving father that might have put me down and told me, oh, I'm just a girl. I'm capable of expressing my anger. I'm capable of understanding he came from a childhood that didn't teach him anything. And I'm capable of loving him without hurting myself. I can do all those things without hurting myself. And so it's almost that you're saying chronic pain, chronic illness. Let's say we're not going to talk about where it comes from. We are going to talk about how to get rid of it on our own. And you are a living proof. And I want to talk more about that. You are a living proof. You are cured. You are healed. The body shows no signs of MS. You are human. You might get tired. You might, but you have absolutely healed yourself. You've written a book called Hope Beyond Illness. You counsel people with all kinds of chronic pain, illness, disease. And where do you get stuck? when you do, and where do people get stuck? You can continue to help the listeners with where they can move through the wall, where they can climb the walls easier. What are the take-home tools that we want to send to our listeners? Some of the take-home tools, you said a few already. Loving yourself, understanding you can be angry, and I said we can be angry and we can love the parent. We can forgive the parent, but we can express that they hurt us. We're allowed to do that. The nutrition for you is a very big thing. The body work for you is a very big thing. The getting the anger out, expressing your anger. Mia's talking about, right now Mia's a patient of ours, and she's talking, she goes directly into depression. So let's talk about how she can get herself out. Like, what tool would she use? She has to, first of all, acknowledge she's in depression.
That's good.
We don't even know. So Mia, you have to sort of say, okay, I feel depressed. My body hurts. Now, Shulamit, what should Mia do?
Listen, I don't know what you should do. I know that for me, because depression is part of MS, by the way, when I get depressed, that's one thing that doesn't just go away. I mean, I have waves, but my waves are not peaks anymore. And depression doesn't last what it used to last. So when I fall, for example, in the winter, when there's no sun, I become depressed much more. I do tapping. It's miraculous, that technique. Do you know?
Wow, I've heard about it, and I think it's amazing. And for some people, it is the key.
It is miraculous because it's body-mind. You're actually stimulating points of acupuncture. You're actually working with your meridians. You change your energy completely. It's like the pipes in your body are blocked, and you go with a pump, like with a bathroom pump.
Mm-hmm.
Pump them, and then the thing starts flowing, and your energy goes up. It's not that you change anything outside. Reality is the same, but then my experience of it, my interpretation of it, my understanding of it is different, because my blood in the brain is not in the arms to fight and my legs to flee, but it's there in the brain, having access to my higher intelligence, having access to my inner resources. Right. So tap it.
Right. So let's just, in answer to Mia, she said she's tried that, but I said to her, keep trying it, but love yourself making the mistake. Let's say you do the EFT. It doesn't work. Do you just say like, oh crap, it's not working? You're like, wow, Shulamit, you're really trying hard. Like, let's work a little harder. Let's do it again tomorrow. Let's love yourself fucking up. Sorry to say that. I want people to get the big idea. I might get thrown off the show, but you have to love yourself with the migraine. You have to love yourself in pain. You have to love yourself, loving yourself. You have to love yourself, criticizing yourself until you stop doing it.
There's something else, Mia, about the EFT. The brain learns. We didn't learn how to run the first time we got up on our feet. The brain learns, and you fall and you fall and you fall until the brain says, this is how I stand up, and then you're walking. By the time you get to running, the brain really knows how to do this coordination. It's the same thing. The first time I do it, I might have so many things inside that once is not enough. I do it today and I do it tomorrow, and my brain starts saying, what is she doing? And then, oh my God, something is changing, something is shifting, and just the brain. Same thing with meditation. By the way, the first time, who knows what the hell I'm doing, and after a week of doing it, the brain learns how to do this, and all of a sudden I have access. That's what I have. I have access to my serenity. That's the word. My serenity.
So this is all learned behavior. This is where, if Rose and I are teaching how people need to be in touch with their feeling, how they need to feel it, how they need to own it, they could be like, yeah, I feel my anger, but then we have to learn a habit. And what you're talking about is doing it over and over again. And even a mistake does not mean you're not going to progress. This is where
No,
people get lost. It's
it's
a new habit. A new habit. Talk more about that. How did you have to keep eating organic? You probably didn't like so. You probably were complaining. Like, tell us more about the things. Where did you get stuck, and then you persevered through that?
everywhere. Everywhere I got stuck. Everywhere I got stuck. I hated the whole thing. Come on.
Right.
I hated the whole process. And
Wow.
it hurt also. Everything I did hurt also, physically, emotionally, you know.
Right.
So it's not like this is a fun party, but this is what you have to go through anyway. So do the best you can and do the best you can. Yeah, you say also the love yourself is like, it's not so simple, because what are we really talking about? We don't know until we experience it. You know, what is loving myself? Maybe it's just about a little compassion and patience with myself, that I
Right.
do fall, that I make a mistake, that I did the tapping and it didn't work, or I did the, you know, that is not so easy, that is part of the process of growing and stretching.
Right.
Because that's what the illness and the pain is actually asking me to do, to stretch myself to the limit, you know, to know myself better.
And I'm sure that, people in their 20s and 30s, it's like, it's hard to learn a new habit. If you've come to age 30 and you've thought you've been loving yourself, and then you wake up one day and you have a migraine that doesn't go away, and, ringing in your ears doesn't go away, or you have accidents, or you have surgeries, and then you're like realizing you're not supposed to be in chronic pain. I mean, chronic pain is not normal. I don't want anyone to accept chronic pain. It's not normal. Your body has the ability to heal. But what I'm saying is that I think what people have to have is enormous amount of patience for themselves, like they do for their children. This is a key. They're so nice to their children. They're so nice to their wife. They're so loving, and they don't know how to be loving to themselves. And, what Rose is saying on the feed is that, we depend on being loved from day one, and we might not have experienced that as a child. We might have been, like you said, we mimicked the behavior we saw. And so it is hard because we have this learned behavior, because from 3 to 5 years old, everything's in the brain. And here we are trying to neuroplast the brain, which is possible, but it is a habit. And that's what Dispenza says. That's what Dr. Hanscom says. That's what Gabe Matai says. Gabor Matai. That's what John Sarno says. That's what Michael Galinsky says. And, we're all in the same boat. No one's doing anything greater. Everyone, it's just people are more disciplined. It's disciplined. It's enormous amount of self-discipline, which is self-love.
People sometimes come to me and say, I don't have no discipline. As if we are born with a discipline. Discipline is nothing more than repetition. You repeat, you repeat, you repeat. One day, you just can't go out of the house without brushing your teeth. How many times were you told brush your teeth until it became a habit? Same thing. Discipline is just I repeated a behavior a few times, and it becomes a habit. And you're talking about habits. Everything we do in the negative is also a habit.
Exactly. Say that again. Say that again.
Let me see that I remember. We're talking about habits and creating better habits. Actually, everything that we criticize ourselves for, and if we're talking about the things that we do wrong and the reasons why we're getting sicker, it's because of habit too.
Right.
The way we eat junk, which is getting us worse, and my husband might be listening to me and saying, I that again. But it's one habit. We were taught, we were calmed down with sugar. Right. Remember, they would cry and they give you a little sweet thing to shut you up. And now that's all we want. And it's like heroin in our brain. But let's not go there, because we all hate the fact that we can't have some sweets.
It's about balance. It's about tofu and donuts. It's about balance. Lorraine is saying, and this is a biggie, she finds that she finds herself searching for love everywhere else other than within herself. And I want to combine that. Lorraine, listen. Rosie's talking to us from the TMS RoundTable. She says, defiance makes us fail. So what in that inability to find love within herself, where she's defying, like, I just want to say, I call it where we're fighting ourselves. So Lorraine, I think there's something inside of you you're fighting because it's scary. It's not comfortable. It's not familiar. That might be my explanation of why it's easy to give and love else than inside. What do you think, Shulamit?
I'm not sure that I understood. I can't really read. I don't have my glasses.
So she finds herself searching for love everywhere but inside of herself. And Rosie commented that defiance makes a lot of us fail. And I call it like an inner conflict, like an inner war, because it's not easy to love ourselves. It's strange and we're not comfortable and we don't want to do what we're not comfortable. And where Lorraine might try to love herself, but it's strange. So it's easier to love her plants and her flowers. I see her, posting beautiful garden things and her beautiful daughters. So talk about the loving yourself and how did that click for you?
I don't even know how to answer that. It's not simple at all. And also the word love myself might be a little complex, because what does that really mean? We do need connection and we do need love, Lauren. I mean, we are looking for love all over the place all the time anyway. Since we were born, we need the love from the outside in. Yeah. So that's just natural, and it's not so simple to find it. That's true. Still, being kind, maybe it's not about love, which is a big concept, but being kind to ourselves, being compassionate to ourselves, that's more what I would call it, like have patience. I'm suffering. So leave me alone. I have a headache, leave me alone. It's okay. It's okay not to want to do things. It's okay to want to just chill, be in bed, read a book, or watch TV. It's okay too.
So you were very forgiving of yourself. You were very forgiving.
I didn't have a choice. So you know how many times I couldn't walk or talk. I'm very talkative, as you see. I couldn't talk because I talked like this. Horrible thing. I was a singer. I couldn't sing. I was a player. I couldn't play. I couldn't do anything. I was a bag of potatoes, okay? I couldn't move. So I couldn't be very demanding. I couldn't be the actress and I couldn't be the whatever it is that I was being in that period, I could only be what I was, which was that thing that was having to learn how to use my hand again. I used to draw. I never drew, but I used to draw these things because it was the only way I had to start exercising my hand to write or to use it, because I couldn't use it.
That's where we tell people with chronic pain to go out and push through the pain, work out, exercise. Push through the pain, and that's something else. But I do want to comment to Mia. So Mia's asking, I want you answer this, because I know Mia's working very hard and finding that a lot of the therapy she's doing have been failing her. So let's give her not one more answer. I want her to understand what you think. She's doing brain rewiring for 4 months, an hour every day, no change.
What is it that she's doing?
Brain rewiring. I think it's a little bit more like trying to change the brain, because she's got some chronic pain, and she's doing a brain rewiring program in Europe, in Switzerland. And, any experience with this and why it's not working for Mia? What would you, if you saw a perfect program that worked for changing the brain, learning a new habit, and it wasn't working for Mia, what feedback can you give Mia?
Mia, do you really believe that this can heal you? Because belief is key. Belief is placebo, right?
Placebo.
If I believe that something is going to cure me, it's going to cure me. If I believe something is going to kill me, it's going to kill me. That's the way it works. It's documented.
Right.
It's So maybe you don't completely believe it. You have your, well, maybe
Great
they
point.
say it works. I read it works, but I'm not really. But just, you have to just. I don't know how you decide to believe it. I really don't know what
Right.
clue is there.
Right.
You have to somehow convince yourself that this is possible.
Right.
Listen, guys, I had migraines. Also, I had horrible pain. And what I say, what I tell my clients is, if I was able to cure myself, you can. I have nothing special. Nothing special about me. I'm just another chick. Come on, I'm just another woman. Nothing special. Bad. I mean, I have bad moods. I get angry. I'm just like anybody. Simple. Yeah. If I was able to do it, everybody can do it. I believe, though, that that's possible.
Let's talk about the science of belief. The science of belief. You believe it, whether it's a sugar pill or not. So no matter what, the science of belief is that, and we're going to explain to Mia, she's saying she doesn't understand. There's a science of belief. When I believe something, my chemicals in my body are changing. When my brain feels that I believe this therapy will work, my brain's like, whoa, I don't need to protect anymore. I don't need to be in fight or flight and cause blood and oxygen to come from different parts of your body because I believe that this is going to work. And so the placebo is changing things scientifically, changing things in your hormones, causing adrenaline, causing the good chemicals, causing the happy chemicals, the love chemicals, the oxytocin, the chemicals that, so it could be, Mia, that, you have to be very compassionate. You have to be completely loving and believing in that it all can work and that maybe all these things you're doing are working towards the complete healing. And it can happen tomorrow. It can happen, maybe it's happening and maybe you're scared. It's scary to be in pain for years and then to wake up and not be out of pain. We're getting used to our pain. This is a whole nother topic, but it's all in the same beautiful mind that you have, Mia, and also having compassion for your past. A lot of us don't come from pretty past. I mean, Shulamit can talk about that or not. I mean, it's not always that simple. Even if she accepts that her past is her past, sometimes it's just to admit that we're scared, admit that we had some trauma. We don't even have to know the trauma itself. We just have to love ourselves. Rosie can explain this better when it comes to the trauma. But what I mean is that there are people that heal without having to go back to their childhood. Some people need to go through it. But it's about the love. Talk more, Shulamit. I don't want to hear me talk. Rosie talk more about the love.
I hear that, and I don't talk so much about the love. Let me change it.
Okay.
So in this language, self-compassion. Compassion is not pity, guys. It's not having pity. Compassion is something else. Compassion is let me be there for you. I get your pain. Let me be there for you. Pity is, that's scary. Don't get too close to me. Compassion is, I hear you. I understand you. I'm here for you.
Right.
Be kind to yourself. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a break.
Right.
That's more the love that I was able to give myself.
Right.
And I really think that I told you guys, I did all these treatments. It's not like one healed me. And many of them I did and nothing happened. Now, nothing happened. I don't know. I think that it was the accumulation, the integration of all the things that I did, the mistakes including, the exercises that I didn't like. Everything together is the attention put on the target with love and hope. Right. My book is Hope Beyond the Illness. Hope is basic. Hope is I believe that something is going to happen. It's not, I hope that something will happen. We talk like that, but hope It's faith. It's more like the faith
Right.
than the
Right.
hope. It's the faith that something is going to happen, something is going to give eventually. And in the meantime, I try this and I try that, and not everything works, but I'm all constantly putting the finger on my target, which is getting better. Getting better.
Right.
I don't have to go heal myself. I never thought that I was going to heal myself. That was
Right.
impossible. But getting better is
Right.
possible.
Right.
Living better. Living well is better.
Exactly. And I think that, look, you had enormous amount of belief in yourself. Even when you were angry, even when you did things wrong, you still believed in yourself. And that's the brain not needing to go into fight or flight. Like when people are reactive as opposed to responsive, I'm going to respond to this. I'm going to respond to this pain. I'm going to understand it. I'm going to love it. I'm going to connect to my body feelings. Like this is what Rose would say. I'm going to connect to what my body's feeling. I'm feeling scared. Okay, recognize it. I'm recognizing the fear. I'm acknowledging it. I'm loving myself. So I say to Rose, what do we do with the fear? Nothing. Recognize it. So do you remember times where you were feeling fear and you thought, okay, I'm recognizing my anger. I'm recognizing my fear. I'm not reacting to it. And that's the body going into more pain. You obviously responded to everything that happened, and that kept you in remission. And I think it was this funny that Mia said, well, why? Mia's so good at what she's doing. Mia's so good at reacting. Exactly. We're back to the habit.
It's
Right,
a habit.
Shulamit?
It's totally a habit. We learn to react. We learn to react to everything. At home, you see your parents react to each other and to everything else, and we imitate perfectly.
Right.
You know?
Shulamit, can you talk about what feelings, like I know you went and got body work. Can you talk about the feelings in your body, the fear, or if you ever thought about your mother or your childhood, what the anger at your body, the anger, like talk more about what you were feeling in your body, and that people, lots of our guests can relate to that, possibly.
What I was feeling in the body while I was...
Yeah, the feelings you were feeling, the feelings.
I had a lot of frustration. A lot of frustration with myself and with everything. And frustration can go both ways. It can go to anger and it can go to depression. So sometimes I got angry and sometimes I got depressed. But it was I remember feeling very frustrated with myself, with my body. I remember hitting my body like, come on, like get up, wake up. I remember that.
Right. So it's like you were using your anger towards your body, like to motivate yourself. Like, get up, please get up. Not like lazy. You were like, get up, Shulamit, do it.
I don't remember. I just know that I was very, and I have a knack for anger. Some people, when something happens, they get depressed. They don't express. For me, it's easier to get angry than to express. So I can get angry. If you trigger me, it's easy for me to yell and to throw you something if you trigger me. I'm not an angry person as my personality, but if you trigger me, I might.
It's called being human. It's called being human.
Well, some people go inside and introvert, when like that triggers them. I am extrovert. I yell at you.
So you probably had a lot of anger, and that might have been rage. You know about the rage from seeing the movie. You know that some of it might have been rage.
I don't remember it so much because probably was very forbidden in my house to be rageful. They would have slapped me.
Wow.
Maybe. I don't even remember. But angry, yes. You see the pictures of me as a child, I was like, I don't like being here. Like, I don't like this incarnation. I don't like these people who are like angry, like pissed off, uncomfortable.
Yeah. So Gail has commented, we spend so much time in anger at others, but hard to recognize the anger at the self. Very profound. Same thing with the love I can give to others. And I always say, I say to one of our clients, I mean, she loves her dogs you cannot believe. Oh, I've got to leave now. I've got to take my dog out. And I'll say, do you see the way you're acting to your dog? Can you please act that way to yourself? She's like, oh my goodness. Is that me?
Yeah.
So interesting. Why is that? Why? So that's also what Rose and I talk about. And I see what it's like. If we can know ourselves, know thyself, and then you say, I'm very good at doing that. And if I know myself, I can learn how to do it to myself. It will be strange. It will be foreign. But what you're saying, Shulamit, it's very possible, very probable. And talk about the tools in your books that you help people hope beyond. What are some of the tools that you talk about in your book?
My book is full of tips, and it has EMDR tools, and it has EFT tools, and it has meditations, and it has visualizations, and it has dream board, and it has all kinds of this, dreams, work with dreams and with waking dreams, with looking at life and understanding when you have signs, because life gives you signs to do or not to do stuff. It's
amazing.
I recommend it to you. It's full of videos also, isn't it? It's called how is it called? An interactive book, because it has links to videos from Dispensa. I don't have, but I have Lisa Rankin, and I have Bruce Lipton and people like that, big thinkers. And I have videos of me explaining different kinds of breathing exercises and meditations and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
can I ask how you were able to stay calm and meditate, and how was that for you? A habit that one learns, myself as well.
Well, I created it. I told you that I got into this spiritual path at the same time that the illness started, like together. They came together almost to the day. And part of the practice of this spiritual school was what they called contemplation, which is just another style of meditation. And so I started a routine every day, 20 minutes, half an hour, every day. I've been doing this for 38 years.
And what do you do when your thoughts just start thinking about what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat?
So I keep on bringing back to, okay, I'm here. Like I do a lot of, meditation is about, one of the typical techniques is that you're just observing the breath. For me, that is difficult. I listen to guided meditations mostly. There's a lot of apps out there that are available. And so it's a guided, for example, mindfulness. I do mindfulness, so I'm listening to what I hear, tasting what I taste, hearing what I see. Like you go through the senses, you feel the body in the present. It's about being present in the present.
It's very important. Talk about that. So you're in touch with you're feeling your body. Talk a little bit more about that.
Mindfulness is about being mindful in the present, about being completely here in the here and now. So how do you get to the present? First of all, your senses.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you tasting? What are you smelling? And what are you feeling in the body?
Maybe the body scan. They call it the body scan.
Exactly. Body scan is one of the things that you do. You pay attention to the body, how it's feeling in the moment. And it's interesting when there's pain, because, of course, if I have a migraine and I pay attention in the migraine, it grows. But if I pay attention in my shoulder that doesn't hurt, the migraine goes down and this becomes more present. It's just interesting how the brain works,
Yeah.
Like also the way we speak about what happens changes the situation completely. If I exaggerate the way I speak, if I say this is a horrible pain, it hurts more than if I tell you it's a pain. I have a head.
About the words, something about the words, the power of the words.
The words we tell ourselves determine our experience.
Right. If
I say this is a hot day, the heat is bothering me 5. If I say this is a really hot day, just one word, it's an 8. And if I tell you this heat is killing me, it's a 10 and I can't breathe. It's all my words, right?
So
the
true.
Experience changes. And that's true for everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if my partner told me something that pissed me off, I can say I'm upset, and that's a 5, and I can live with that. Or I can be, ruminating about it, and he really pissed me off, and that's already hard. Or, I am so upset. Whatever, it's the way I talk to myself. It's going to
Modulate. Yeah.
It's going
The
to make
barometer. Yeah.
it's going to make it harder
Yeah.
or less hard. Just the way I speak to myself is going to completely change the experience. That's part of how we can actually impact our brain, the way we speak to ourselves. So being loving, you would say, and being kind to yourself, it makes a difference.
And I think I know that a lot of people ask a lot of questions, and that's what this show is about. But we have to, at some point, realize that we're asking the questions to keep ourselves away from ourselves. It's like the questions are constantly telling the brain, I'm not sure, or I'm sure. So if you're sure, you're sure. You're sure, then ask the questions to confirm what you know. But remember, all the questions and all what we're doing right now is very much cerebral. And that can also take us away from our body to stay in our head. We need to be in our feelings and in our body. And somehow you were able to get into that place close enough to your body. And I think this is a hard thing to tell people, because we're telling you intellectually what to do, but it has to be a feeling thing. And one of our shows, the doctor was talking about the difference between a feeling and a thought and how to access that. And that's something we can answer, on the feedback. But isn't that important to get out of our head and back into our body? And
the thing with what you were asking me about what I was feeling and what I was feeling through the therapy, the truth is that when you have illness, a lot of what you feel is helplessness and hopelessness. And those are very difficult feelings.
Well, they're not really feelings, they're thoughts, but the feeling behind that is fear. The feeling behind that is fear. It's sadness. It's terror.
Yeah.
So you feel fear. Go ahead. You feel the fear by feeling the helplessness. You feel the fear. Now what?
When I feel the fear, I tap, because somehow it's going. I mean, for me, tapping.
So you move the fear through your body. You move you feel it in your body, and you say, "Look, I'm going to get the energy going," and you're distracting yourself as well with the tapping, but you're moving the energy, because the fear is stopping the blood from flowing, because the fear is putting the brain into fight or flight. So you're allowing yourself, you're calming by doing the tapping and calming down. And you really have to calm down. You can't just fake calming down. You have to
no. The body calms down, and then something happens that I have access to, as I said, like a higher state of consciousness. And then as a reaction, as a response to that, the fear goes down. It's incredible. You start at a 10 and you do the work, and all of a sudden the fear is a 2.
Right. So again, Gail's commenting that it's hard for her to separate the thoughts from the experience. So we're talking about thoughts and feelings, because experience is more like the feeling. So what you're doing, you're talking about a calming, and you're getting there through tapping. Other people can get there through breathing. Other people can get there through distracting themselves. Other people can get there through saying, I'm okay. Like talking to the body. There's many ways. And these are the tools that I sometimes work with people. Okay, here's the pain. Okay, there you are. You're feeling numbing in your face. Okay, what can you do? You can say, okay, there's numbing. I'm not my numbing. I feel the numbing. I'm feeling the pain here, but it feels real. But I'm not my numbing. I'm not my pain. So already you're separating yourself. Okay, 2, that's still in your head. You can distract yourself and just completely do something else, which works for some people. 3, we can breathe. Send lots of oxygen, blood. Breath brings calming. Breath brings many things, so what Rose is saying is we can notice. So this is recognizing. I can say, oh, there's the pain. I'm recognizing that I might feel some fear, some anger, some frustration because the pain was gone 5 minutes ago. So I'm recognizing it, and that calms the body down. Acknowledgement.
Acknowledge. That's the word.
Owning it. I can handle this pain. I'm stronger than this pain. I'm not my pain. Like in the work with Mia just mentioned the book, Eckhart Tolle. He's always like, you're not your pain. There's the pain body and there's you. You're not, don't let it move in. So there you are saying, I'm in control. And so I'm feeling fearful, and then I can say, okay, I'm acknowledging the fear. I'm acknowledging that I want to run, but I can stay here with it. That's Rose's talking to the clients now. We're like, Rose will talk to our Zoom group and she'll be like, stay with it. And somebody might laugh and say, well, or somebody might say, distract themselves. Somebody might defend themselves and say, well, I don't really want to feel because I want to give someone else time to feel. And like Rose will be like, no, stay with the feeling. What are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Okay, that's human. That's normal. So here we want to run from the feeling, just like the brain wants to run. So what you do in between feeling your numbness, Shulamit, and before you tap.
Well, I integrate everything. I don't do this or that. I do everything at the same time. So for example, tapping goes with breathing. Breathing is basic. Meditation goes with breathing. And breathing, if you remember, you're a Hebrew. For everybody else who don't speak Hebrew, breathing, you say neshima. Soul is you say
neshima, which means soul.
Neshama, soul, and neshima is breathing. And according to some scriptures, the soul enters the body with the first neshima, with the first breath. Yes. So actually, when you are breathing, and there's many exercises of breathing exercises, you somehow connect to that level of consciousness that is the soul, like high level of consciousness. And then the experience changes. It changes. Right. It's hallucinating. It just changes.
Right.
So you're doing that, and you're connecting to that part of you that, let's call it soul or whatever. I mean, I'm not talking about religious soul, okay? I'm talking about your higher state of consciousness that is everybody's. Okay, everybody has that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I'm doing the tapping, which means stimulating certain points that are actually changing the energy in the body. The whole experience changes. The whole experience changes. I use it in the middle of the night. I can't sleep. I have a lot of problems with my sleeping. So I'm not going to wake up my husband by starting to do this, even though I do sometimes. Mm-hmm. I do it in my fingers. I sleep like this on the side, and so I tap like this, the side of my nails. And I'm just doing that. And it's not like I'm going to fall asleep immediately, but somehow I stop looping in whatever it is I'm looping. Right. Because I'm just doing this stupid thing.
Right.
And breathing. So all the tricks, they're little tricks that have already become part of who I am, part of what I do.
Right. But you're knowing yourself. You're not being critical. You're not being like, oh, I'm up again. I'm awake again. You're not being critical, but you're loving yourself, being upset that you're awake. That's authenticity. That's what Dr. Gabriel Matai talks about, that when you are authentic and you know yourself, the pain ceases to exist. When you're able to be in touch with yourself, you will not get a disease. That's what he talks about in his work. And so we have a question that I'm going to put up, and I'm going to read it to you. Vivi Oppenheimer Klein, Shulamit, everyone who knows, who feels that you are most inspiring gift to all of us. Oh, your positive and loving and healing energy has been infusing my life from the moment when I first participated in your workshop. No less than transformative. Thank you for your comment. And I wanted to say that something interesting that everyone knows. It's actually a quote on the bottom of my email, and I'm actually Viktor Frankl. He says, now, there's a moment between your thought and your action. Okay? And that's the moment where you feel the pain, and you're going to decide whether you're going to tap, or whether you're going to be pissed off at yourself, or whether you're going to get scared, which is human. You're allowed to get scared. But that moment holds a lot, because you can decide at that moment that you can love yourself and work through the pain. And everyone has many tools. And sometimes the tool will work one day and not work another. It's all very much an art. You're a piece of art. I'm a piece of art. This is not a science. Our body's not a science. No offense. And yet, Rosie and I and Shulamit are being very scientific. This is not New Age. But we're letting people know that there's a decision that can be made. And when you make that decision, physiologically, the brain relaxes. The body calms down. The hormones are created. The happy chemicals happen. And this is a habit. This is not learned overnight. And this can be done, and healing can happen. And I think that the message of tonight is enormous amount of patience for oneself.
Kindness, compassion.
Self-compassion, self-love, self-compassion, self-recognition. I don't believe, it's like, I call it letting go to have control. Like a letting go in order to have control. Eddie Lindenstein, who everyone knows, people know him from the podcast and from his TMS story. He talked about a submission. He submitted, and this is a bodybuilder. And he's talking about a softening of a strong man, how to deal with pain. And I think for the men in our members, in our community, we're all men and women. We all have men and women in us, and we have to be so loving. And then, when we're in pain as women, we get tough.
He talked about submission. Is that surrender? For me, surrender. Very big.
Surrender. So anyway, could you have your copy of your book you can hold up? I meant to bring it on the show, and I'd love people to see it. And Hope Beyond Illness, a guide to living well with a chronic condition. So amazing that you wrote a book, and I'm inspired. I'm inspired as we all are. I mean, there's been a lot of beautiful comments from people, and if there are any more questions, we're probably going to round it up. Mia wants to know if the book is in German.
No, the book is only in English and in Spanish.
Okay, but we can talk about getting it in German. What do you think? If there's Mia, we can talk about it. John Sarner's book's in 30 languages, so anything's possible.
Anybody wants to translate it, I'll be happy.
Right. So anything else you want to say to our lovely community? Also, Shulamit's available. She lives in Israel, where I live. And we've talked, Rosie and I have talked about maybe having a workshop with you and doing a workshop together. We've talked about some things we could do. We wanted to bring you back and talk more about the connection with God, anybody's God, the Jewish God, the Christian God. God is God. And just how much, because what is God? Believing in yourself. Believing in yourself. That's what God wants from us, is God wants a piece of him. And that's about healing. And Rose and I talk about the doctor within, and I don't want anyone to think that's underestimating your pain. Please, it's just about the ability to self-heal, and Shulamit's a testament to this. So we are so grateful to have you, gorgeous lady.
I am so grateful that you had me. You
and yeah, Mia said, do a retreat. Oh my God. Let's do it in Switzerland where Mia lives.
Let's do it in Switzerland.
Can we do a retreat on Zoom and sleep over?
Well, the sleepover would be a little weird, but yeah, we could try it.
Okay, so we're going to say goodnight, and I'm going to forgive Be Live for not letting Rosie come on and not be angry at them not acknowledging my membership. And
if I may, I would want to tell people that I work online. If anybody wants to contact me personally,
great,
online,
great.
No problem.
Great, terrific. So anyway, all right, Shulamit, I love you. I loved you when I first met you. I love you more now. Rose and I love you, and we're going to have some great Zoom meetings talking about some work we can all do together. And so good night if you're in Israel. Good afternoon if you're in America. In Switzerland, good night. Rosie, good morning. And anyway, we'll talk soon. The best to all of you, and the healing, the best is yet to come.
Always.
Okay. Good night, my dear.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Tovah, from my heart.
Okay.